Coming up on Nebraska Stories, the Ponca tribe retraces an emotional journey, the healing power of art. A coach and player become father and son, and restoring Nebraska's Pine Ridge paradise.
It begins here, by the Niobrara River in northeast Nebraska. 140 years ago, the Ponca tribe, driven from this homeland by soldiers with bayonets.
And we walked day after day.
The main thing that they were up against is the unknown. Where are we going? Why are we going here? If you can imagine being sent someplace that far away and not knowing what's going to happen.
I remember the stories my sister-in-law talked about of our children being picked up by their braids and flung into the backs of wagons.
Now, on a cold morning in April, members of the Ponca tribe have gathered to walk. From the Niobrara to the Kansas border, 12 days, 280 miles, following in the footsteps of their great-great-grandparents who were forced on all the way into Oklahoma.
I know we can't walk in the steps like our ancestors did. They were very, very strong, and, we're so soft today. But for me, it's a spiritual journey. I think it's just wonderful that so many people have come together and that it's going to go all on this journey with us.
Aho, Ponca Moshe Wongide. It's good to have all our Ponca people here together today. I just looked at the clock. We're right on time.
Glad to be here today, to just walk.
Yes.
That's all I'm here to do.
Richard Lasley and his son Gabriel are direct descendants of a famous Ponca chief named Standing Bear. Forced into exile with his tribe, where a third of his people died, Standing Bear fought back. He walked from Oklahoma back to Nebraska, 500 miles in the middle of winter, to bury his son's bones near the Niobrara River. And then went to court to prove he was a full human being with the right to live wherever he wanted.
I am a man. The same God made us both.
He defied those orders when he was in Oklahoma to come back up here, not only to bury his son's bones, but the blood of his people and the people before him ran in this ground. So there was a bond there. There was a draw there that brought him home.
So if it's raining, it's cold, we're gonna walk. And just shy of a tornado or lightning, we're gonna walk. And so whoever can get out there, even if they take 2 steps, they're gonna honor our ancestors. That's their sacrifice that they can give, and we're gonna do that for our people.
The Ponca Eagle staff will be passed along, person to person, every step of the way. They pass the site of the Ponca village, where their ancestors lived in earth lodges.
It's in the air, it's in the clouds, it's in the land, it's in the land. where you can just feel the presence when you're walking. You just think about it and you feel them.
They walk through the small towns of Nebraska to Neely, where a baby girl died and was buried by townspeople who've taken care of her grave for 140 years. To Genoa, where the federal government established a boarding school to transform natives in the white man's image. And to a rest stop near Seward, where a monument to an unforgettable story is about to be unveiled.
I had the privilege last night of dining with the tribe, and this morning I had the privilege of walking with them for about 6 miles. Joaquin, will you come here? This little guy walked today all day long, and it's his birthday.
Let's reveal the marker.
It's just really a beautiful day. We can see the Creator gave us this gorgeous weather today. And now many people will stop and see this marker, and it'll give them a moment to pause and to learn this story if they don't know this story, and then to go out and learn their own stories.
It was a far different day when the Ponca tribe came through here in 1877. On June 5th, Standing Bear's daughter, Prairie Flower, died of tuberculosis and was buried in Mount Pleasant Cemetery in Seward County.
He gave everything to leave Indian Territory and fulfill his son's wishes and come back here, and he lost everything.
We walked today and passed through here for a brief time, and some of you, this is the first time you've been here, but I know it won't be the last.
On day 12, 280 miles from where they started, the Ponca walkers and their friends arrive in Barneston, Nebraska, at the Kansas border, with so many stories to tell.
I want you guys to know from start to finish, he was pumped. He carried that Oto flag all the way yesterday. You know, anytime he got tired, he just picked up and he ran. And to me, that was a sign of a young warrior right there.
And the heartbeat of the Ponca Nation goes on as Casey leads the women in a traditional scalp dance. She calls it a victory dance, a celebration of survival.
We have endured. And with the help of our Mother the Earth and all of the gifts that she continues to sustain us with, we will live.
I think this is the first and largest single investment in a purposeful healing arts program that's part of a cancer center, designed from the ground up. We know that patients' feelings does have an impact on their disease. When patients are under stress, it can affect their immune system. It can affect their blood pressure, and that the immune system does play a role in all of illness. Over time, when these experiences are multiplied with multiple chances to visit the art and participate in its beauty and serenity and hope, we do believe that the arts, in a healing way, will provide a positive benefit on patients, possibly in their outcomes, but definitely in their quality of life. We want this to be uplifting. We want this to take them away from where they are in their difficult periods and provide additional hope and inspiration to them.
I still consider myself a patient. So I was first diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia in August of 2014. And I went into remission. 2017, I was diagnosed again with acute myeloid leukemia. So I was in the hospital for long durations. There's days that you just want to get out. To go outside and get fresh air. I think back to those days that I had to wear the mask and gloves. And I remember going into the sanctuary and sitting there and looking up high because there's a glass there and you could see outside. And just praying to God, thanking Him for giving me another day, even on those darkest days. It actually took me away from my illness and let me think about peacefulness and calmness. I was able to pray and kind of meditate on the way I want my life to look, how I want to feel. I think that just looking at it changes your mindset. It keeps that hope inside you. I do feel that this truly helped me heal. I really do, in my heart of hearts. I definitely think it helped my healing.
Sports often creates strong relationships. In the case of coaches and players, they develop special bonds as they work closely together. For LeBeck Warren and Jeremiah Slough, that relationship became one of father and son.
I mean, I never saw like me living with him coming, but I thought he was a cool guy.
LeBeck came from a broken home, which caused him to be placed in foster care. The experience took its toll on him and was noticed by his coach, Jeremiah, at Grand Island Senior High.
As a freshman, he would be at practice one day and then he'd miss two, you know, and it was hit and miss on whether or not he'd be at games even. And so we knew that the structure that he was living in probably wasn't conducive for, you know, success moving forward, whether it be academically or athletically. And I had a lot of conversations with Jill that, hey, this is a good kid that just kind of needs a chance.
So they wanted to find him a long-term home, and Maya came to me and said that they were looking for somewhere, so we just kind of talked about it and decided that that's something that we would like to do for him.
Kind of changed my mindset about everything. I thought like it was just me against the world, and you know. And then I ended up moving here and everything turned out okay.
Yeah, I think they already set me up with all my classes.
Oh, good.
I asked for
like some of the challenges that we faced right at first was, trying to develop, like, we are young. I'm only 10 years older than LeBeck, so how does he view me as an authority figure, and then kind of developing that maternal instinct with him.
What I really struggled with was once we took him in, my expectation for LeBeck increased. And I was hard on him, really hard on him, probably unfairly. So just trying to balance, you know, the expectation with him on the court and off the court was hard for me.
These people, like, I don't know if they really love me, and you know, it's kind of like goes through your head a lot. But I think they truly love me, and they're really nice people, nice family.
As they grew closer, the Sloughs decided to make things permanent and adopted LeBeck. The family grew again shortly after, with the addition of the Sloughs' daughter, Ava.
And I think he was pretty excited, and he's so good with her. I mean, he's an awesome big brother for Ava.
Most days I think LeBeck likes Ava more than he likes Jill and I, so he does a really good job of, you know, spending quality time with her, and we're thankful that, you know, she's always going to have a big brother to look up to. I think it's helped me be a better coach, just seeing it from a father's point of view, and understanding that there's more to it than just winning games and scoring baskets.
Just being able to get to know him over the last couple of years, knowing the background that he's had, and just how he's succeeded in life with the challenges and the broken family that he came from. I'm just so proud of him. I'm very excited to see where he can go.
It's just like another family just wants me, and like, I don't know how to like really explain it. They took me in, you know, I started finally seeing a true family and like stable home, you know.
Named by hungry Army scouts who feasted on salt bacon after surviving an Indian skirmish, Salbelly Canyon is located in the Pine Ridge country and counted among Nebraska's great natural wonders. A 12-mile public road winds through Salbelly Canyon, and a small park gifted by a ranching family to the village of Harrison is a favorite among locals. As scenic as it is, the canyon has suffered a number of natural disasters. A raging wildfire in 2006 burned down most of the pine trees that populated the hills. There was another fire in the area in 2012, and more recently, a devastating flood.
There was a flood in the spring of 2015. This area received roughly their annual amount of precipitation within a handful of hours.
It seemed like a hurricane. The wind blew hard and it just came down in buckets. It was torrential.
I'm not giving you any more. No.
Chris Voller and her husband Jim own Salbelly Ranch, which sits in the heart of the canyon. Their son-in-law was home the night of the flood.
The water, he said it sounded like a freight train. Something so loud, he said it was, you just couldn't imagine how loud it was, and he couldn't see, it's dark. He said he decided if the water came up to this house, he was gonna go up to the top house, but it didn't get in this house. We were lucky it didn't come across the road into this place, it went down the road.
Everything here, you see the canyons all around us, so when 12 inches comes in a handful of hours, it all comes down to the stream almost immediately. And then that was on top of all the timber that had fallen from prior wildfires. That came down along with it, and that's what ended up creating most of the damage in the area.
We were stuck in here, I think, 4 or 5 days. We couldn't get in and out because the roads were all gone. And the worst part was the dead trees from '06. They all washed down. You know, they just all came down in big piles. The creek had changed. It blocked the whole creek and it was coming down towards us.
There was a tremendous amount of silt and rock that was moved. The stream was widened in a lot of places. Where there used to be a bank, it was gone. It became sediment and it's somewhere downstream.
After the flood, we had to close the park, and a lot of the area people used it for picnicking and family events. We had numerous weddings down there. We were afraid that maybe we wouldn't be able to bring the park back at all.
The village of Harrison reached out to federal and state agencies for flood assistance. Their request for aid was met with resistance.
Matt Steffel from Game and Parks got on board right away and said, you know, we really need to get this process going.
When Federal Emergency Management came into the area, their primary concern was reestablishing the developed areas of the park. I pointed out, as far as developed areas, the very unique public fishery that we have here with a very small number of miles of this type of fishery in the entire state. And we're looking at a very large stretch of some of the highest quality stuff right here.
When it comes to publicly accessible cold water trout streams in Nebraska, there's less than a dozen miles of it. Salbelly Creek is among the best in the state, and it runs through Coffey Park.
It's really an outstanding area. It's a cold water A stream, which is our highest quality cold water stream in Nebraska. Very, very limited. And so when we have a chance to work in those and make sure they're protected, we're going to do what we can to do that.
The Federal Emergency Management Agency agreed to cover 75% of the cleanup costs. The rest of the funding came from the Nebraska Emergency Management, the Village of Harrison, and the Game and Parks Commission.
As far as the village is concerned, you know, there's just no way that we could afford that. We are a small village. Our budget is very tight.
In November of last year, large equipment was brought in to remove debris from Coffey Park, but the stream bed will require additional permits from the Army Corps of Engineers.
We got to get a Corps permit before we can get in the water. So, Yeah, we'll be working in the water and moving the stream in some places, mainly narrowing it in some places. There's wide riffles that were created after the flood because of the rock and sediment that just came when the water fell so fast that it's widened and it's heating up the stream, and there's no way fish could live there. This high bank needs to be repaired. You know, when you have a big flood, it comes down and it takes a hard turn to the left right here, so we had a big eddy pool, so it deposited a tremendous amount of silt. It'll heal, and streams heal themselves. They tend to, the natural meander, they'll tend to cut themselves back to the proper meander they should be and whatever, but it just takes a lot of flow and sometimes takes a lot of time. That's fine.
For private landowners, like the Vollers, they received no federal or state assistance for flood cleanup.
You're so frustrated, what can you do? And we just started in the yard. We fixed the garden. We put new fence up there. We put fence up for the horses. We still have fence down. It might take us 5 years, it might take us 10 years.
The Vollers have been good stewards of their land and just recently placed a conservation easement on their 1,300-acre Sow Belly Ranch with the Nebraska Land Trust.
Conservation easements are a tool where a landowner can decide to either donate or sell some of the rights that they have as a property owner, some of the options that they have on their property.
I think it's probably the only ranch in Nebraska that has turkey, sheep, deer, elk, probably everything you'd want in a place. And we had a lot of friends in Cheyenne that wanted to buy 10 acres on the creek, or the 160 up top, build a house, or piecemeal it out. And I don't think that's what should happen to it. So this place can never be subdivided. It has to be sold in one piece if it ever is sold. And it's protected forever.
Watch more Nebraska Stories on our website, Facebook, and YouTube. Nebraska Stories is funded by the Margaret and Martha Thomas Foundation.